Hi, friends and family.
Hello, Rex and Shana here, talking about my GoFundMe campaign and just giving you a little follow-up and update about what's been going on, and also a little bit, maybe more as to what's going into the campaign itself. Because so I'm one of those people sometimes that when you just kind of see me and don't know my story, my background, you might assume that I'm perfectly fine and not realize the amount of pain that I live in every day. Not just in my body, but of course the traumatic brain injury, like I talked about in the last video. And among the reasons that Shana is here is, of course, she's one of my closest and dearest friends, but also that she's also had experiences herself with migraines and her own brain trauma. Not to mention, she's also a professional in the field and works with neurologists and doctors. I've got a lot of my own doctors, and I see a neurologist about every other month. And I did talk to her recently about this because one of the reasons that drove me to this GoFundMe campaign, partly was her recommendation and the recommendation of my brother, but also just because over the years, despite the disability, despite limitations, I've always managed to find, ways to kind of make the ends meet, find ways to kind of get myself by at least. I've not been able to get ahead in a really, really long time. But what's happened, among the reasons that put me in the position that I'm in now is that I went down about a month and a half or so ago, maybe it was a couple months ago or so, with a round of migraines, like as a non-stop migraine headache that lasted for a week straight. I think it might have been more like 6 days, but it might as well have been months as far as I'm concerned. It was. And I've had these things that happen, from time to time over the years. Going back to when I fell shortly after, I went through these things all the time. This was very normal for me to be down anywhere from a couple of days straight to a week straight. That was not uncommon at all. And over the years, I've gotten slowly better to where I've at least had some functionality, able to do some things. But like I said, a month and a half or so, a couple months ago, I went through this horrible round once again, where for literally a week straight, I was down with the worst migraines I've had in years. And I can't even begin to describe the magnitude of these headaches. And if you get migraines and you get those headaches where not only do you get the whole thing where you got the prefrontal cortex where you feel like you're under 1,000 feet of water, which is where I feel, then on top of that, I have a spot where, because I had so much blood and pressure on my brain, the doctors actually drilled a hole in my head over here. And Shana, being my friend, she's already done this. She can attest to the fact there's like a little indentation scar right here. But I think there was some maybe, I don't know if they went too far into my skull or something, but all I know is when the headaches get really bad, I feel like they've got a drill going into my head right there, in addition to the whole prefrontal cortex thing that's going on. And it's miserable beyond words, and it goes on for days. It's not like I get any break. And then in addition to that, I don't sleep at all, so there's a huge amount of the sleep deprivation that goes into it. And on top of which, when you lay down that long, if anybody that's had to be bedridden that long, then the body atrophies, and then everything hurts. It just becomes an absolute nightmare. And the thing is, it took me probably a good solid week after the migraine stopped to try to even semi-reorient myself and start to feel semi-normal again, as far as my version of normal. But the thing is ever since that happened, I've been getting way more migraines than I'm accustomed to. I got to a point where I was at least down to a couple, 3 migraines a week, and they were relatively able to be regulated to where the migraines would last anywhere from just a few hours to maybe 6 or 8 hours. But usually I can get them to pass within the same day and then get back to, at least, I don't sleep very well most of the time, but get back to where I was at least sleeping my version of normal, where I can get at least a few hours of sleep, even if they're broken up or what have you. So this is a lot of what really brought this about. And I don't like to talk about it at this level, but sometimes doing a campaign like this, it has been, and we talk about this as trying to be as open as I can. Right. A lot of this information is very private, and a lot of what I'm sharing with you is stuff that I only share with my closest of friends and my family. They know what I go through. They're around me, so they understand that this is what really happens with me. And so I just wanted to kind of put this out there as well. It's like, this. I don't want to sound like a complainer, and I hate to be that guy. I mean, I've been a martial artist and a fighter my whole life. I've been through so much stuff, many broken bones even before I had this fall, and you never heard me complain word one about it. I just sucked it up, got through it, and I'm fine. I'm that guy. I'm always fine. I'm fine. But if I figure if I'm going to do something like this, and I need to put it out there, I need to be real and say, okay, you know what? The struggle is very real, and again, I'm a grown man who's been through a history of background of fighting, being in the ring, and all kinds of stuff, but. I mean, this is the kind of thing I can just break down and start crying right now when I think about it, because I'll tell you something, I don't want to go through that ever again. And anybody that's been through it, it is beyond nightmares, it is beyond horrible. And I would not wish that on my worst freaking enemy. It is so, I've been through a lot of surgeries, and no surgery I've been through touches the degree of pain. And especially when it goes on for days on end, and you just have no idea when it's going to end. Middle of, maybe day 3, day 4, and at that point in time, I'm already I'm practically fetal position, and I got tears in my eyes as I mean, just wondering, can I just die now? It's so bad. I'm not suicidal. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just it gets to that degree, and I know you can relate to this because you've been through really miserable migraines yourself, and you've described that drill bit feeling as well. So, anyways,
they're awful. And Rex has a lot more going on than just the migraines. There's a lot of residual he lives with on a day-to-day since the fall, since the near-death experience, and he is in chronic pain. He's naming one aspect. As a close friend, I see a lot more.
Right.
And this is a time to help one another, and right now it's a time to help you.
And I appreciate that, and it's hard to, I know most of us understand it. It's hard to want to reach out, especially like this. Hard to kind of make yourself vulnerable and admit, in some ways, I am a strong person. I consider myself a tough person. I've been through so much pain in this life, and I've endured every bit of it. But at the same time, I'm kind of embarrassed at the same time to have to admit all of this. But I feel like it's important, and as we talked about it, it just seems like this needs to come out, and this needs to be shared. So if you've stayed with me, stayed with the video this long, and you've been listening, just thank you so much for taking the time. And for right now, I'm very limited in what I can do. And if these migraines continue to happen on a nearly daily basis, I mean, I'm literally getting out of bed. My first thing I do is get out of bed like most of us do, and maybe try to grab a bite to eat, grab a shower or something, and I'm already in migraine where it's like, okay, I just got up, I've been up for all of 15, 20 minutes, I'm going back to bed again because now we got to nurse this migraine. And
there's some days I can't get out of bed for many hours.
Absolutely.
Because the dizziness is so severe. And then I also have the visual interruption, but
right.
With
There's
migraines, unless you
up.
haven't experienced this, I hope you never do. But I can hear, I physically hear an earthquake, and my head feels like there's an earthquake, but visually everything's doing this.
Totally understand.
And it looks and feels and sounds like an earthquake. I don't know how else to describe it.
I feel my heart beating. I mean, I literally lay there, especially once I'm several days into this kind of a migraine. I'm like hearing every one of my bodily function, and my heartbeat is just going crazy. And I can just feel it.
I can hear
it's
my
like
heart in my head.
Absolutely.
I hear blood pumping because everything is so intense. The pain, the sound, light, sensitivities, everything.
And despite it all, and she's completely the same way. And if you watch any of our videos, I mean, the whole point of this is we want to find ways through this. So despite these limitations, despite disabilities, despite the pains, that we could find a way to have a functional, productive, meaningful life. And also do something meaningful with the world. It's not like when I feel good, I'm not just sitting around watching TV or something like that. I'm not a couch potato type at all. I never have been. I've trained my whole life. I like being active. I like moving, and I like getting things done.
That's right.
Despite the limitations, when I've been feeling good enough, I managed to write a book over these years. It took years to do it, but I have a book out because when I'm feeling well enough, I like to write. And I've got a second book I'd like to get out. Also, I like to work on music. It's something, again, I can't do it all the time, but when I'm feeling okay, I like to work on music, and I find it's incredibly healing, and not just for the mind, but also just so good for the soul. Because I'm not really a depressed person by nature, but when you go down and been that long, you can't help but get very depressed and very down about life and yourself. And I'm not a woe is me type at all, but sometimes even that slips in there a little bit.
Right.
You can't help it because the pain just does that to you, especially
hard.
when it's unrelenting like that. And for anybody that's watching this, that's been through this or going through this, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can be really debilitating, even for the strongest of people. It can really just take you off your game, take you off balance, and just even make you just wish you just. I mean, I don't want to say this, and it sounds. I know how it sounds, but I mean, sometimes you just don't even want to be alive. It's just so bad. It's like, just take me now, please. But I don't want that. I don't want to say it because I don't. I want to live this life, and I want to make the most of it. But damn it. It gets so bad sometimes.
It sounds like the migraine cluster pattern you're in right now, because you suffer from cluster migraines. And it sounds like the pattern you're in right now has lasted 7 weeks so far. And
something like that. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I lose track of time real easy, but it's definitely been a while. But it's been way too long. And usually, when I get past one of these, I go back to where it's just a couple of migraines a week. But part of the issue I'm having is that I'm still having them close to every day. Thankfully, they're not the monster variety, but it's still I'm losing several hours of every day. Usually 3-4 hours, maybe more on some days, to just having to lay down and shake the migraine. I've got medicine that I take, and most of the time it helps. It keeps it from being an 8-hour experience. It drops it down to say a 3 or 4 hour experience, but it's still nonetheless. It's a whole crazy thing to go through, and it's hard to get anything done. And then after the fact, And I know you were late. And again, anybody who's a migraine sufferer knows you go through this thing called a migraine hangover. At least that's what I call it, is a migraine
Yes,
hangover.
that's what I
The
call it.
headache may be gone, but you're still just wrecked. You know, your brain's still
Yeah.
fogged and you're just wrecked. You're just like, ah.
Yeah, your body can't function because of the muscle tension that you've experienced for the days
It's
of
exhausting.
nausea and pain.
Absolutely.
And the nausea is from pain. And then you have the after effects of the medications that you've taken to manage the pain.
And I'm
So,
on some strong stuff. And anyway, again, anyone who's been through this, and I know you know, I mean, there's
because
some
we
strong
take some
stuff.
of the same medicine.
Right,
We take some
absolutely.
different medicine. We take some of the same medicine too.
Because not the same thing works for everybody. What works for
Right.
me, it may not work for you, vice versa. But yeah, anyway.
So, yeah, we're just asking that, you know, please share this video, support, and help with the GoFundMe any way you can. If you're financially not able to help with Rex's GoFundMe, share the video with people who can. Send it to them personally and directly. Also post it to your wall.
And we wouldn't be asking about this if it wasn't like serious. I mean, I never imagined I'd be doing something like this because I seem to always find a way through, and for whatever reason, I'm kind of feeling a little stuck at the
Yes.
moment.
I mean,
I don't know
we
what else
have
to
a
say.
goal, a financial goal for Rex, which is $12,000 by January 1st. And it's a tight deadline. We have to get
It'd be great if we could even
bills
get close to
paid
that.
and-
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
bills paid, and my car needs work, and
in food and
you know,
things.
my
just
computers are
basics.
ancient, and they're, you know, they get hot and they're glitching, and you know, at some point and that's what I used to work on. You know, when I work on music, I need my computers for that. So
And that's what he's doing to support himself right now. So if you take away the tools that somebody needs for their independent living, they don't have independent living, and that's where we are right now.
right.
So support
And-
Rex, help him.
yeah,
He's
well,
a big
thank you.
friend.
Appreciate it.
He's a
Appreciate it a
beautiful
lot.
soul.
Thank you, Shana. And I appreciate you a lot. And I couldn't
loved.
do this without again this very dear and one of my best friends in the whole world right here.
One of my
Thank
best
you.
friends too.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, thank you so much.
Blessings.
Peace.